Alright, hello class. Good morning. Sorry for the little missed couple days. I had a little family emergency, but everything's going to work out. The one thing I will say is don't smoke. Don't ever smoke. That's what the whole thing was about. My dad was a lifelong smoker, and now he's having problems with circulation in his legs. So don't smoke. So looking at the areas of trapezoids and rhombuses, that's what we're looking at for 10.2. So when we're looking at this trapezoid, remember you're going to have two bases that are going to be parallel to each other. Okay, those are going to be the two bases. Alright, so we got base 1 up the top, base 2 at the bottom, and then we have our height. So the area of a trapezoid, essentially you're just going to find the average of the two bases, and then you're going to multiply by the height. So the area for this is going to be base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2, okay, all times h, okay? So that's going to be the formula. You add up the two parallel bases, divide by 2, and then multiply by h. So a couple examples down here at the bottom. So if we're looking at this one, we want to add up the bases. So I go 21 plus 38 divided by 2, and then you're going to multiply that by your 16. So it's going to look like that. Oh, excuse me. And then when I go through this, 21 plus 38 divided by 2 times 16, I get 472 inches squared. Because remember, we're looking for areas, and areas are always going to be squared. Okay. So once again, you just add up the bases, divide by 2, and then multiply by the height. Okay. So for the next one, this one, sometimes your bases are going to be vertical. Okay, it's whatever two lines are parallel. Those are your bases. So when I'm looking at this one, let me turn this over. I'm going to go 18 plus 6 divided by 2. All times 9, just like that. Now when I go through that, I get 108 feet. 108 feet squared, just like that. Okay, so you add up the bases and divide by 2, then multiply by the height. Now sometimes you'll have to find the height, and that is going to be one of the bummer parts of this section. Okay, let me move this over just a little bit here. Okay. So if I'm looking at this, one, I have to drop my height. And I know that's 90. So I have to figure out my h. I have to figure out what my h is right here. All right. Notice you break it down into a triangle. Okay. Now this one works out because it is a 60. Now, if you can't remember special triangles, the 60-30, that was the one where it was x, 2x, x square root 3. But if you can't remember that, if you know that this is 5, you know that this length has to be 5 because this is perpendicular, so these two we form a square here, or a rectangle. So I know that this has to be 2. All right. Now, if you're unfamiliar with special triangles, you can go to the trig functions. Okay. So we got this angle right here. We have the adjacent, and we're looking for the opposite. So we know the tangent of 60 equals opposite over adjacent, h over 2. So all we have to do is multiply both sides by 2 for our h. Okay. So h is going to equal 2 times the tangent of 60, like that. So when we do that, 2 times the tangent of 60, 2 tangent of 60, it's about 3.7. About 3.7, okay? So now once we have that h, now we can go in and we can figure out our area. So if we wanted to figure out our area, we would use that, add up our bases. So this is for my area. Okay. And it's going to be 5 plus 7 divided by 2 times 3.7, like that. So when I go to my calculator, 5 plus 7 divided by 2, I get 6. 6 times 3.7. Whoops. Is 22.2 meters squared. Just like that. Okay? So sometimes you will have to find the h. Okay? So here we are over on this one. If you want to pause it and try this one on your own, by all means. I'm going to go through it here in a moment. Okay. So if you paused it, hopefully you got it right. Let's go through it. So we're going to drop our height. We know that's a 90. Okay. Now this time, we don't know what this is. We don't know that other base. But we are still looking for our h. Okay. So we're going to have to do this very similar. When we drop this and it's perpendicular, we know now that this is 15. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Alright, so looking at this. Alright, we're going to have to figure out these two distances. We actually have to figure this out so that we can get our base. Because we know that this up here is going to be 15 minus whatever our variable over here is, x. So now, remember solving triangles. That's all you have to do on this. So I'm going to recopy the triangle down here. I know this is 60. That's my x. There's my h. And I know that's 8. Okay? So when I go through this, I can use this as a reference. And I'm going to start off with, I'm given my hypotenuse, and I'm looking for one of those. So if I'm looking for my h, I look for my h first. That's opposite and hypotenuse. So that's going to be the sine of 60 equals opposite h over the hypotenuse. H over 8. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 8. So when I go over here, I know that 8 times the sine of 60 is about 6.9. So there's my height. 6.9. Just like that. Cool? Now I have to figure out my x. And I'm going to use the same one, and this is adjacent, so now I'm going to have to use my cosine. So to get my x, I'm going to have to use cosine. Let's see here. Okay. Whoops. So when I go through this, I'm going to go cosine of 60 equals, and cosine's adjacent over hypotenuse, so x over 8. So now I'm going to multiply cosine of 60 by 8. And that gives me an even 4. So I know that this is going to be 4. Okay? Now if you remembered your special triangles, you can use that where this is x, this is 2x, this is x square root 3. So if I know that this 2x equals 8, I can get 4 that way. Okay? So if I know that this distance is 4, 15 minus 4, I know that the base of this is 11. Okay? Whew. So this one's a little bit of a longer one. Alright, but now we have enough information for our formula. So when we go through it, well, I guess I'll just put it on here. I'm going to add up the bases. So I go 11 plus 15 divided by 2, all times 9. And when I put this in, 11 plus 15 divided by 2, whoops. And then I multiply by 6.9. So I get 89.7 feet squared, right? So this is why we had to go over all those trig functions. We have to make sure to get if we have to, we got to be able to get triangles. Alright, on our next one. So we have this base is 6. This little piece right here is 3. So this whole thing then is 9. Just to let you know. Alright, so we have a base, we have the other base, but we do need our height. Okay? So we're going to be looking at this. We know it's a right triangle, so we know that the trig functions are going to work. I'm going to pause. Okay. So along with the trig functions, the Pythagorean theorem is also going to work. So if it's a right triangle, I'm just going to rewrite it really quick. I'm going to have 3 on the base and 5 up here. I got to find my x. The Pythagorean theorem does work. So I know 3 squared plus x squared equals 5 squared. Add those two, so I get x squared equals 25 plus 9 is 34. And then the square root of 34 is 5.8. So I know that this is... Wait a minute here, something's wrong. Oh, make sure to subtract. Right here. 25 minus 9. Derp. 25 minus 9 is 16. So I know that this square root of 16 is 4. So I know that my height right here is 4. Okay? So now when I set it up, I have one base that's 6. So it goes 6 plus 9 divided by 2, all times 4. 6 plus 9 is 15, divided by 2 is 7.5, times 4 is 30. So you get 30 feet squared, like that. Okay? So you may have to do a couple, some trig functions to find out some of the things. Alright, turn the page. So now we're going to look at the area of rhombus of a kite. So the rhombus of a kite, or I'm sorry, the area of a rhombus or a kite. It's going to be the same for both, and it's going to be very similar, a little bit different. So notice we have D1, that's the diagonals. D1, D2, those are the two diagonals. All you do is, to get the area of that, add up the diagonals, divide by 2. So this one's going to be D1 plus D2 divided by 2. That's all. Okay? So you just add up the diagonals. Alright, so when we go down here, on this problem, we have 2 meters and 5 meters, so one diagonal is 7, and the other one is 6. So to get the area of this, you just go 7 plus 6 divided by 2. 7 plus 6, or I'm sorry, 7 times 6. This is multiply. Make sure to multiply. Did not mean to do that. Make sure to multiply. Got to multiply those. Sorry. So if I'm multiplying 7 times 6 is 42, divided by 2 is 21 meters squared. Okay. Next one, 6 feet, 4 feet, and 4 feet. That's going to give me 8. So this is just going to be 6 times 8 divided by 2. 6 times 8 is 48, divided by 2 is 24. Okay? Alright, now sometimes, very similar to what was happening before, sometimes you may have to use some trig, and that's where this part comes in. Okay? So if we're looking at this one right here, it's a 45, 45. I know this is 9 square root 2. This is where using special triangles can really help you out. Remember in isosceles it goes x square root 2. So I know that if this is 45, if the hypotenuse is 9 root 2, I know this little piece is 9, and this little piece is 9. Okay? So if I know that this is 9 square root of 2, do I know what this is? Remember, it's an isosceles, so this has to be 9 as well. Okay? So all you do, 9 plus 9 is 18, times 9 plus 6 is 15, divide by 2, just like that. Whoops. Times 15. I keep on adding. Make sure not to add. Divided by 2 is 135 meters squared. Just like that. Alright, now sometimes you may have to find the diagonals using the coordinate grid. No worries. So you got to figure out this the distance between here. So remember, all you do is the distance formula. Okay, we want to figure out that distance. And I know that t is 0, 0. And then I know that r is, what is that, 5, 5? So remember the distance formula. Okay, and the distance formula, so the distance formula is, remember it's going to be the big square root. So I'm going to look for the differences in x. So let's see, I'm going to go 5 minus 0 squared plus 5 minus 0 squared. So this is 5 squared is 25, so I get the square root of 50. Square root of 50. Alright, so that was for that one. Now for the next one, now I have to figure out the distance between that. So I have to figure out the distance between Q and S. So I know Q is 0, 1, 2, 3. And I know that S is 0, 1, 2, 3. Like that. So now I'm going to apply my distance. Okay. So when I go through my distance, very similar, 3 minus 0 squared. Oh. Wait. This is 3, 0. That's where it is. Yeah. Now, there we go. And then we got 3 minus 0 squared. And 3 minus 0, so I'm going to get 9 and 9, so I get the square root of 18. Like that. Now, you can multiply those two together and divide by 2, but please recognize that this is the same as the square root 3, or 3 square root 2. This, up top, this is the same as 25, or 5 square root 2. Like that. So if you multiply, you can multiply these two together. 3 times 5 is 15, times 2 is 30. So I get 30 divided by 2. And I get 15. Okay? I went through it kind of quick. If you want me to go through it, make sure to ask questions on the Zoom meeting that we have tomorrow. Alright. So the area of a kite is 120. So if we're looking at a kite, just like that. So I know that the kite has a total of 122 centimeters squared. And I know that one diagonal is 20. So I know 20 times x equals 120. So just to solve for your x, just divide by your 20. Like that. 120 divided by 20 is 6. Well, hold on here. Alright, don't forget your fraction. So what I should have done here is 20 times x divided by 2 equals 120. Now multiply both sides. So this is incorrect. So I get 20x equals 240, then divide by 20. So when I do that, 240 divided by 20, I get 12. So for this one, you should have had A as your solution. Okay? Alright, so here's a couple. If you want to try these on your own, you can pause it. I'm just going to give you the answers here in a moment. So, if you paused it and tried it on your own. So if this is 20, then you know this is 20, this is 30, that's 30. So it's going to be 60 times 40 divided by 2. So this is, you should have had 1200 for this. Should have had 1200 for that. Alright, for this next one, okay, if I know that this is 6, when I split it, remember, and when it comes to a rhombus, those diagonals are going to dissect each other, or bisect each other. So I know that's 3. It is a right triangle, so I know 3 squared plus x squared equals 5 squared, so I can figure out this height. So let's see, 25 minus 9 is 16. So I know that this is 4, so that has to be 4, like that, okay? So then to figure out the area, 6, because that's how long this is, times 4 and 4 is 8, divided by 2. 48 divided by 2 is 24 meters. Oh, don't forget to put feet squared over there. Cool. All right, and I'm gonna skip on this one because I'm already running on 20 minutes. So don't worry about this one. Graph the lines and what type of quadrilateral is formed. Find the area. Don't worry about that. All right. So you are left with your homework. Your homework for 10.2. Hold on, I'm gonna pause this and get your assignment. All right. So your homework for 10.2 is let's go 1 through 31, not 19. So 1 through 31, skip 19. All right, so that is your homework for 10.2. If you have any questions, make sure to come up to the Zoom meeting. Our Zoom meeting is slated for Thursday at 10:30. All right, so once again, our Zoom time is at 10:30 tomorrow, Thursday, the 30th. All right, have a good day. See you.